Well, it's the month in November, and we're not talking about Thanksgiving. However, we're going to be talking about veterans issues because Veterans Day is right around the corner. We're fortunate enough to have stopped by Ion Piscataway in studio. It's Kristin Poulsen. Kristin?
Yes.
Kristin Poulsen from the Veterans Service Office of Middlesex County. Which is not to be confused with the Veterans Aging Office.
Right.
There's all these different acronyms out there.
There are.
But basically your role, as well as your colleague at the county, is to sort of be just a facilitator for veterans dealing with maybe some medical care or some other issues, paperwork that maybe need to be filled out by veterans. So maybe you could just give a little step-by-step. If I'm in a veteran's shoes, and I'm having problem, like saying, getting appointments with the VA, and we do have a VA clinic here in Piscataway Township, or other programs that can assist veterans, why would they pick up the phone and call your office?
So in our office in Middlesex County, we deal with veterans from different eras, but we also deal with many different issues affecting veterans. We help them with their paperwork. Sometimes we have veterans who come in who are homeless or maybe at risk of losing their housing. We help connect them with different nonprofits that are funded by the VA. We also have the Middlesex County Homeless Trust Fund, that we have a portion of those funds that go to veterans of Middlesex County. So if they're also in need, we're also able to assist them.
So how does that trust fund work? I mean, because that may we know we need to put this down in layman's terms here. How does that trust fund work, to your knowledge?
So for the dealings that I have with it, we have a $5,000 limit for each veteran if they...
Is that for the entire year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if a veteran comes in and they're in need, we can help them with their rental arrears. So if they're behind on their rent, it's usually 1 to 3 months. It obviously depends on what the rent cost is. We also help with security deposits for people who are getting new apartments. We can help with first month's rent.
So that $5,000 pot has some flexibility, whether it's a down payment for an escrow, so to speak, for an apartment. And,
yes.
And with the rise of rents with apartments nationally in central New Jersey, I can understand that.
Yes.
A lot of time they may be able to pay the monthly bill, but not necessarily have the money for a deposit.
Right.
Because normally it's a month and a half's worth of whatever the monthly rent's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and usually when they come in, these are veterans who may have already lost an apartment, or maybe they're coming out of a transitional housing situation. They may have, had substance abuse issues or mental health issues, and they went through a program that helped them to receive all the treatments that they need, and they're coming back into civilian life. So
when you're talking about, obviously, after they are off active duty for
yes.
obvious reasons, but like say, is that working in conjunction with the VA with some of the programs that they have? Or?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Everything I do is always in conjunction with the VA or VA partners. We do have many partners who aren't associated with the VA, but their goals are to help veterans. So they also do many of the same services as far as connecting people with their resources, getting them signed up for VA benefits, trying to help them look for housing, employment issues.
So when you try to help them look for housing or VA benefits, the paperwork sometimes can be, and then if they're not computer literate,
yes.
the vets, I think that may be a potential large stumbling block in a lot of
yes.
cases like that.
So I am certified to assist veterans in filling out their paperwork.
Okay.
I assist veterans in all
and
those.
I'm trying to put this in layperson terms. So
mm-hmm.
certification, who certifies?
So the certifying body is the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers.
Okay.
They are an accredited body by the VA that says that I can assist a veteran in helping complete their paperwork for maybe disability compensation. Some of our elderly veterans are looking for what's called aid in attendance, and that is a service pension that helps them pay for homebound care,
Oh,
nursing
so
care,
this
and
is
things
on
like that
top
as
of
well.
the normal benefits that they're
Yes.
that'll be something extra that we're, and a lot of it now is, I guess, government's rethinking things. So is the medical industry about maybe a veteran may not necessarily be at a VA hospital. They'd be better at their own domicile.
Yes.
For
Yes,
treatment
so there's
and take
many
care.
options, yes.
Let's give that phone number out so we can put it up on the screen.
So my phone number is 732-745-4051.
Okay. No, that is, I didn't realize that. I mean, I know because my wife's funeral director, I knew that, obviously if a vet passes away, their spouse could be buried with them down in Arneytown, New Jersey,
Yes.
or wherever. But, I didn't know that the actual medical, while they're still alive, that there's actually some services that they
Yes.
can get for the spouse.
Yes, there's lots of different services while they're alive. In certain cases, the VA also helps cover health insurance if a spouse is a caregiver to their veteran.
Now that's also interesting because given the fact that they want people to really, shelter at their homes, if possible, if they're physically capable of doing that, and you would have to have a medical provider there and a spouse in a lot of cases, if they have the wherewithal and they're healthy enough to do that, that would seem only natural.
Yes. Yeah, it seems that people do better in their homes. They're more comfortable. They know their surroundings. They're comfortable with their spouses. They don't have to meet new people.
Yeah.
So it gives a veteran more ease, and a veteran spouse as well. If they're capable of doing these things, there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't if they want to.
Yeah. Now, who do you, as a person helping out and certified, do you screen people who may be like in-home healthcare aides or anything?
So I don't do that. That process is done by the VA.
VA.
They have a sort of a registry of companies who provide this care that accept the payments through them. It's also a monetary payment from the VA to the spouse or the veteran in order to pay that back out.
Okay.
So there's not necessarily a third party. So we help with those benefits. We can help with a lot of different applications that veterans may need, all kinds of things from the VA.
I just can't imagine the amount of paperwork that may be involved. You always think of the federal government, bureaucracy, large papers, but what is really like the most poignant issues that you have to deal with on a daily basis with veterans?
So in our office, aside from veterans homelessness, which is sort of our number one goal, right now we're focused on veterans' mental health, getting them into treatment facilities and appropriate medical treatment, so this way they can feel better and be more productive if that's what they're looking for in their life.
And I think right now there's not enough caregiving facilities where a veteran can go and stay there, because the last thing you want to do is see them on the street.
Right. So
Or
in
her on the
this
street,
in this state, we only have the two from the State Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. So it's difficult trying to find otherwise. So they do help with that monetary cost. So this way, if a veteran needs a nursing home or inpatient care at a rehab facility, that money is there to help pay for those things.
So the money, you think that the state from the Veterans Administration, you're talking about that pot of money?
So the money that a veteran would apply for from the VA is money that they would receive personally.
Okay.
And then they can pay that back out in order to pay for even a private nursing home.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
And getting a nursing care in this day and age is very tough to, even if you have economic resources to do that, it's right there. All right, so you talked about a lot of the mental health issues, a lot of the paperwork. What other programs are out there for vets? Say if you're a healthy vet and just want to enjoy life and is there like programs for keeping wellness, like for
There's several programs through the VA that they offer. They offer activity programs. If you're a veteran who likes to stay active. They have golf outings. They have different tournaments that benefit other veterans, that they look to bring in veterans to help service veterans who may be in need. Who better to help a veteran than a veteran?
Okay.
So that seems to be, a large response among a lot of people. So the VA does do equine programs with the horses. They have golf outings. They have programs through Lions VA. I know that they take veterans to like movies and things like that. So they try to get people out and about. There's lots of ways to volunteer. If you're a healthy veteran and you're looking to be active with other veterans, there's fitness groups that they can join.
I want to delve into the fitness component very quickly. Like, say, hypothetically, I mean, we have a beautiful community center next door that has a large fitness center. Does the Veterans Administration pay for a membership partially of that?
So they
or
don't.
Is that, they don't? Okay.
Yeah, no, they don't. But I know the YMCA does have a military discount.
Yes.
So if they are qualified for that, they can apply for such a thing.
Okay. All right. So it's just say apply for the discount. Say if you're going to a store or whatever, whatever the value is of that, but they don't give a stipend, so
No.
to play for there. All right. So what other programs are out there? Or we spoke about folks that may be veterans that may have medical issue problems and getting the paperwork, wellness, mental health. What other type programs are out there?
So there's also employment programs. So if you are looking to further your employment, or if you're just in need of employment altogether, there are companies like the GI Go Fund. They're based in Newark. They bring veterans in, help them create resumes, help them do a job search that is focused on employers who want to hire veterans. So this way there's a more understanding of the skills set that veterans have, since they tend to be very unique. So the people there, they help do that. We help make referrals to those men and women there. So this way our veterans, Middlesex County, can also get those benefits.
Well, that's great. I do know that there's a state law that's been on the books now so now there has to be some housing that there has to be a set aside not only for low to moderate income, but also for veterans' preference. I know we have a couple sites here in Piscataway where veterans have preference, in the lottery to get certain type of housing, which I think is good, because let's just face it, when you're in the military, you're not there to enrich yourself as far as finances,
right?
Because it is a government salary and aspects in the military. So,
right.
And that was one of the big things when they come out of their service, depending upon what their marital status is or where they are, coming up with a down payment for a house or as you said, even a apartment can be economic challenging.
Yes, yeah. The fact that pays are low, because things are provided for you while you're in the service, so it doesn't need to be higher than that. If you're not a veteran who had a family, or you weren't able to prepare for life outside of the military during your transition, trying to find a home or affording one can be really difficult.
And you still have to have down payment money to get it, even though you might get a veteran's loan where it's at a reduced interest rate.
Right. So a VA loan actually doesn't require a down payment. However, you're still free to make one if you choose. As we all know, a down payment
you're still
brings it lower.
You're going to still owe the money. So
right. It'll bring your payment lower regardless. But there are companies and programs out there who offer down payment assistance to veterans. I believe they're called Homes for Heroes. There's also programs out there like Habitat for Humanity, who also help house veterans who are in need, and they also adapt housing for veterans who may need that.
Okay. So what we're going to do is I want to thank Kristin Poulsen from the Veterans Service Office. I think I got the acronym correct? Okay. There in Middlesex, and give the number for the final time again.
So it's 732-745-4051.
So I want to also thank Director Ron Rios from the Middlesex County Board of, the commissioner board for being an advocate for all the years that he's been in office as a county official. I know he's like the chief cheerleader for the veterans in the county, as well as a lot of the other commissioners too. But I think if there's a coordinated effort by the local, county, dealing with the state, I think the veterans have a better leg up on dealing with other services out there at the national level. Because after all, they've given, it's not something that you got drafted to do. You wanted to serve your country, and you knew you weren't going to be able to have economic means possibly coming out after the service of your country. So there's got to be ways that we got to take care of the veterans on the flip side for protecting us. So thank you for stopping by on Piscataway. And,
thank you for having me.
Once again, please contact those numbers that'll be up on the screen for the Veterans Service Office here in Middlesex County, County Commissioners. And thanks for stopping by, Kristin.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Well, we happen to be out here in Suskin Park, out on Haynes Avenue. I have with me Lieutenant Smith and Officer Clues from the traffic division of our Piscataway Police Department. And the reason why we're out here is because one of the largest complaints, or the many complaints received to both in my office and to the township council members, is about speeding within individual neighborhoods throughout our community. And it's not just here in Piscataway Township, it's an issue nationwide. So I thought I'd have the two experts out here in our PD to talk about a little bit about traffic safety and why it's of importance to both the motoring public and to pedestrian and to bicyclists here that use our roadways. So let's start. I have a series of questions. It's not a pop quiz or anything. It's something that you deal with every day. Can you explain the role of the traffic safety division of the Piscataway Police Department?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, we're investigators. Will take a look at any serious or fatal crash, also any hit and run crash that occurs in town. Second, we're sort of the tip of the spear for enforcement of traffic safety in town. Patrol obviously does a lot, but our traffic guys try to lead the way when it comes to enforcement efforts for traffic issues. Third, to go along with the safety aspect, is we administer the crossing guards in town to make sure that kids get to and from school safely.
Now, how many, you talk about traffic safety now, how many, the volume of motor vehicle collisions in the township of Piscataway on a given basis, on a given day or a week?
Yeah, so I take a look at every crash report that gets produced by our police department.
Yeah.
And it's in excess of 2,000 per year, so about 6 per day that we're looking at. And with those crash reports, my job primarily is to ensure the accuracy, to make sure that the crash report is located correctly, and that the contributing circumstances are accurate, whether it be unsafe speed, unsafe lane change, failure to yield, anything like that, to make sure that when that report gets sent to the Department of Transportation, they have an idea of where that funding should go.
Yeah, and just so the general public knows, when it gets, the reason why it gets sent to the Department of Transportation, it goes to the Federal Highway Administration and the US DOT and the state, and that's how they do traffic analysis. And for federal funding through New Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, that's the Safe Streets model, and that's to determine where monies are going to be spent nationally and more specifically in our region of the state. Now, how much is speeding a contributory in a lot of the collisions?
Right now, assuming that the data is accurate with our crash reporting, we see roughly about 5% of our crashes where unsafe speed is a contributing circumstance.
And we know, and I guess just being a light person now with the new motor vehicles that are out that we drive in, a lot of them ride a lot quieter, and sometimes you don't get even though you can see the speed limit in your and sometimes on the dash and on the windshield and things like that, you don't really realize how quick you're going with some of these vehicles.
We're seeing that a lot with electric vehicals. A lot of.
Because they don't make any noise.
Yes.
Yeah. The enforcement. Why are you guys want to really enforce, and men and women want to enforce the speed limit? Why is that so critical?
To ensure the safety, obviously, it's something that is of primary concern for the residents everywhere. Your office fields a lot of calls. My office fields a lot of calls. The idea of vehicle speeding through a residential area where there's children, where there's parks, it's scary. As a parent, I empathize 100% with it, and we want to make sure that if you're out there and you are going at an unsafe speed, that there's an idea in your head that we will eventually get you. We may not get you every time, but at some point we will be out there and we will cite you.
One of the biggest questions I receive and council members receive is, who determines what the speed limit should be on a roadway? Because some people say, well, normally I'm going 30 or 35 and at 25. I don't understand why it's not 35. So who's the determining factor on where it becomes the speed limit?
That comes down to traffic engineers. And typically in New Jersey anyway, a residential area will be set at 25 miles an hour unless the engineers have a reason that they feel that particular roadway can accommodate faster traffic. But the engineers have the last call about the speed limits.
So when there's a complaint in my office, a lot of times the police department will put the traffic counters out there. Explain what those actually do.
So it's twofold. It'll give us an idea of volume on the road. It will also give us the speeds of the vehicles and
when the problem times are.
Correct. Absolutely. And then that gets forwarded to the engineers. The standard is something they call 85th percentile speed, and the engineers try to keep it as close to that, where 85% of the cars are going that speed or less. They try to keep it at that, whatever 85% of the population is comfortable driving at on a particular road.
Yeah. Now, why is it? Why was this traffic safety campaign developed nationally? I mean, what, officer?
Yeah. So this program is called Piscataway Promotes Safe Streets, and this was actually a program implemented and developed specifically for Piscataway. Now, I'm sure a lot of residents have heard of programs like Click It or Ticket, or you drive, you text, you pay, or Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over. Those are national campaigns that departments all throughout the state partake in. Piscataway Promotes Safe Streets was developed specifically for Piscataway because we have an identified speeding issue right here in town. So.
And that's the key, because if you see it, like we're over in the Gramercy Park area right now, like on some of the main streets, you see people that have the signs out that was given out by the Piscataway Traffic Division throughout and you see almost every house on a lot of the streets have it, because they know that they're a major thoroughfare that tends to have a lot of speed in it. So what makes this program an actual campaign for you?
So what makes the program a campaign is that it's not just a speeding enforcement program. There's 4 components to this campaign. The first is infrastructure improvements. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. We're going to show everybody. We were able to purchase 4 portable radar signs, which we've gotten out in the communities of Piscataway. And those radar signs, they displayed the vehicle speed to drivers. The second component was education. We identified that in Piscataway, young drivers between the ages of 16 and 20 are disproportionately involved in these unsafe speed crashes. So we said we need to get education in the schools to when these young kids are first learning to drive to prevent these crashes. So we've had educational seminars. The third component is community engagement. We wanted the community to become part of this campaign and support the campaign. That's where the lawn signs came in. The lawn signs advertise the campaign, and they slow down, and they carry messages encouraging drivers to slow down. And then the fourth and final, the most, and this is probably what people think when they hear a campaign like this, is actually selective speed enforcement efforts. That's when officers are actually getting out on these 25-mile-per-hour roadways specifically for speed enforcement. So
you spoke a little bit about the infrastructure and the equipment that's been purchased by the town radar. So let's go to the radar. Let's see if you haven't seen it throughout town. So why don't we'll take a quick walk over here so all we need is a motor vehicle to come up Haynes Avenue right now.
Correct.
All right, so is this solar or is this a direct connect to the?
No, so this is actually battery powered.
Okay.
And the batteries typically last for about a month.
Okay.
And that's about the span of how long we'll leave this on a specific street. So.
And then are the batteries rechargeable?
Yes. Yep. Okay. We'll take the batteries out, we recharge them, and then after about a month or so, we'll typically move the unit to another street where we're having speeding problems.
Okay.
And that's why we purchased these, is because they're portable and it allows us. It's not a permanent fixture that can never be moved. This allows us to reach not just one street, but many streets all throughout the township.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so there's also some other solar type things, but these happen to be the battery operated ones here.
Absolutely.
So obviously we haven't had a vehicle come here. So what happens when this flashes the speed limit?
Yep. So as a vehicle approaches it, it will display the vehicle speed limit. If the vehicle is traveling at an excessive speed, the unit has capabilities of flashing red and blue lights to try to catch the driver's attention to slow them down, and it also has the capability to record speed, vehicle volume and speed. So after about a month or so of this being out on a street like this, we can go back and look at the data and determine, number one, if speeding is actually an issue.
Here we go. We got our first taker here coming up. Somebody coming up the road right here where it's actually operational here. So no, they turned off. Okay, but just goes to show you right there.
They weren't speeding though. That's very good.
No.
So, but yes. The final part is that these have the capability of recording speed volume and, I should say, vehicle volume and speed. So at the end of a month or so, once we have
you can plug that into your data right there to find what's going.
Correct.
Identify problem times.
Yes, it can identify, number one, if speeding is actually an issue, and number two, if speeding is an issue, when it's most prevalent, so we can get officers assigned out there at the right times. There's no point of having an officer out there from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. if there's no speeding.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so it flashes if you're going over the 25, and then it stays solid if you're under the 25.
There's a tolerance that we can set to it.
Yeah.
So if we say that, say our tolerance is 10 miles an hour on a 25 mile an hour road, if we set the tolerance at 35 miles an hour, anything over 35 miles an hour will do the red and blue. But we could set that tolerance to anything
the wonders of technology now.
Yes.
Now, how important is equipment like this for just visual purposes around town for part of the campaign for safety?
Absolutely. I think a sign like this reminds the residents that we're watching. We have the police department logos right there.
Yeah.
It reminds the residents, it reminds anybody, I should say, traveling through, that we're out here and we're watching. So it's very important. And we have data that shows that these do in fact reduce speed on these 25 mile per hour streets.
And I think it promotes accountability. I think when you're, especially again here on Haynes Avenue with the park right here, if you're doing 45 and that sign lights up and there's a family here looking at you, then you're accountable for your action.
So is there any lasting thing that you need to say to the general public about traffic safety?
About traffic safety, well, I would just say that this campaign was developed, again, there's multiple components. We had the community engagement with the signs. These signs were offered to the public free of charge. Anybody that wanted one and to become a part of this, they were certainly welcome to have one. And the education, we've done a lot with the education.
Yeah.
We were in Piscataway High School this year. We talked to every single sophomore. That was the first time that the department's done that in years. We were at the Magnet School, formerly known as the VOTAC. Every junior and senior we talked to there. And over at Timothy Christian School, we talked to all the high school students there. So that was really good because I think that getting that educational message to the kids, making sure that they understand the repercussions and the dangers associated with speeding. It's not just you might get a ticket. It could cost you or somebody else their life.
Yeah.
So
I think the important thing about these educational seminars is the partners that we had.
Yeah.
We had insurance companies. We had the New Jersey Brain Injury Alliance.
Yeah.
They were talking about real effects of what happens when you are driving at an unsafe speed. Yeah, there's property damage that can occur. You could be a 17-year-old with your car and you don't have a car anymore. There's also injuries. There's also a lot of impact on the community when you start talking about the property damage and the injuries that can occur when people are speeding.
Well, I'll never forget the first 4 years that I was mayor here in the town, that there was some complaints from residents speeding over in a neighborhood. I believe it was over in the Wynwood section of Piscataway, and there was traffic enforcement out there. They put the traffic counters out there, and then about 3 weeks later, the detail was out there doing. Lo and behold, the couple of residents that were calling the office complaining ended up getting tickets because they were excessive speeding in their own neighborhood. And I just remind residents out there, probably 90% of the time, most of the speeding's being done by people within their own neighborhood. So it's really a neighborhood campaign that, hey, just be cognizant of your neighborhood.
and like the lieutenant said, bring some accountability to yourself. You don't want to speed. You don't want to be the one speeding in your own neighborhood.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, well, I want to thank Lieutenant Smith and Officer Clues. Thank you for the continuing awareness campaign that you're doing for traffic safety here in Piscataway. But I think that should be a lesson learned, no matter whether you're driving around here, the residential streets, or throughout our community and other communities that you may traverse throughout the course of your day.
Thank you for having us.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Hey, I want to thank everyone in Piscataway for coming out for our second annual Piscataway Fire Company's 5K. I'm with my co-host Chris Moskowitz, and we just want to thank everyone for coming out. Every year it gets bigger and bigger. We have more runners this year. We have some fire prevention after the race. We have top 3 medals for men's and women's. I just want to thank everyone for their support.
Thank you everybody for coming out. Beautiful day out. We've had it blessed 2 years in a row for great weather, and it's just been getting bigger and bigger. We just want to thank everybody's support for coming out.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, if you're interested, we always have it in October. It depends on the week, but always look around fall time for us putting out flyers on social media. It's always in October for fire prevention, so look out for next year in 2024, October. We'll see you there.
See you there.
Well, believe it or not, we're taking an away game or a road trip, but really not out of Piscataway. We're very fortunate enough to be down to Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas Performing Center here, athletic center here, which happens to be the home the Lady Knights of Rutgers, and we're fortunate enough to have the second-year head coach of the Rutgers women's team here, Coquese, Washington, here, stop by Ion Piscataway, and we're on the other side of the building where it's just solely the women's training room, where the men's team practices on the other side with Coach Peichel. Coach Peichel had us in the review room last time for the interview,
okay.
But I love being on the basketball court, so you get an A+ from being on the press. So I want to ask. We have some questions we're going to ask the coach here,
Okay.
and I want to thank the Cagers Club for coming up with some of the questions, because they're the real experts on Lady Knights basketball, other than the coach Washington. So let's start with the first one. Have you seen women's basketball grow over the years, and especially the Big Ten, now that you're a head coach in the Big Ten?
It's grown tremendously over, the past 10, 15, 20 years. And that growth is in large part due, in my opinion, to the beginning of the WNBA. So what's happened with the WNBA success and longevity is more young girls are growing up with the mindset and the idea that I want to be a pro, right? So now
there's a career path.
There's a career path. So they're dragging their moms and dads to the gym in high school. They're dragging their moms and dads to the gym when they're in, elementary school and high school. And now you have all of these people who are really starting to get interested in the game. And then those players are coming to college and they're better players. They're more skilled. They're more competitive, and they want to win. And so you're seeing a better brand of basketball being played, which is making people more excited about watching it. And then when you have, players like Caitlin Clark and Naz Hillman and Diamond Miller, one of a local legend, playing the way that they play. That makes people want to turn their TVs on or want to come fill up the JMA and watch great basketball.
Which I think is kind of interesting, Coach, because we're here in the Performing Center. There's one of the banners behind us about when Rutgers won a national championship going back 40 years ago. Back then, when I was attending Rutgers, when women's basketball was just really starting to take off, you'd be lucky if you had like a couple of thousand people come to the game, where now you have sellouts at a lot of venues watching women's basketball, which is a great thing.
It's absolutely a great thing. And as society has evolved and, it's not women's basketball and men's basketball so much as it's basketball. Yeah. And women athletes are viewed as athletes and not just, the women are doing something that's far below what the men are doing. When you watch college basketball, when you watch those finals, WNBA finals with the Las Vegas versus the New York Liberty, that was high level basketball. And anybody who's a fan of basketball can appreciate that. And so you're seeing that spill over into women's basketball in particular, and thus the growth of attendance.
Let me ask you, as somebody as a strategist in basketball, do you encourage your players to watch the professional games to see if they might learn some tips or moves?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like if you want to be the best, you got to watch the best. You got to see what the best does on a weekly, nightly, daily basis. And it's the creativity. Like when you watch some of the best do things that are creative, it makes you want to do it. Like when I was growing up, I watched Isaiah Thomas,
Oh yeah, I remember from that.
And Magic Johnson, and you watch them throwing no-look passes and behind-the-back passes, and you want to do the same thing. So we definitely encourage our players to watch the highest levels of basketball and let that creativity come out and you express it on the court.
Good. So what do you consider the most important part of building a successful program?
Oh, without question, it's culture. You know, culture is how you talk to people and how you treat people, right? And so your success has to flow out of that. You know, if you have a tremendously talented team and poor culture, you might be able to win. But if you have a poor culture without talent, you're definitely not going to win. So culture is so important, and that's what we start with here is how do we treat people? How do we talk to each other? How do we find shared values? And if we can come to a common ground on those things, the success is inevitable.
And I think that's something that if you're out there recruiting parents who are about to send their daughter off to a program potentially, they want to know what makes the coach tick and the staff.
And those are the things that make us tick. You know, we recruit to our culture. We don't recruit to a scheme of how we're going to play on the court. We recruit to our culture. And then once we get the players in that, you know, lean into our core values and lean into the way we want the program to operate, we'll figure out and determine what's the best strategy for those players. I hire to that as well.
Now, what are your goals for the team in the upcoming season? I know other than winning and getting to the NCAAs, what are you looking most forward for? What are you looking forward the most?
Yeah, looking forward to moving the program forward. You know, the championships aren't won overnight. So you have to be mindful about, are we better this year than we were last year? Are we farther along on that? And how far along we get, you know, that's going to depend on a lot of things, but it's not complex. It's simple. We have to move the program forward. We have to leave the program in a better place this year than it was last year. And if we do that step by step, we'll be fine.
And that sort of dovetails into the next question is that you brought in, there's 3 freshmen coming on and I believe 2 transfers that came on board. And how have they adjusted so far to your, even though you've only really started practicing within the last couple of weeks per NCAA rules, but how have they adjusted to your style of coaching?
They've adjusted pretty well. Yeah. And, you know, the other question is, how have I adjusted to them? Because everybody needs to be coached a little bit differently, right? And so it takes time for me as a coach to figure out how do I coach all these 5 newcomers and get the best out of them and blend them in to a team that is still developing our culture. And that's, for me, the fun part is figuring that piece of the puzzle out.
You keep bringing up the word culture, and that sort of dovetails also into the next question is, what qualities on and off the court do you look for when recruiting the players?
Well, from a skill standpoint, we like them tall as possible, and fast. Tall, lean, and fast, because we like to play
Was that always the way the recruiting was when women's basketball first started out?
Absolutely not, because I played and I am not tall at all. So, you know, and my favorite player is always whoever is the shortest person on the team is my favorite. Okay. No question about it. They also, who's your favorite? My favorite is whoever is the shortest that year. I want the one whose eye.
So everybody know going in that
whoever's the shortest player on the team, because that's the closest one I get to eye level. But yeah, that definitely has changed. Now, you know, point guards are 6 feet tall, and you know, 20 years ago, 6 feet tall, you were, you know,
you were considered a center,
close to it, you know, power forward center. And now, you know, the point guards are 6 feet, and you know, the shooting guards are 6'3", and you know, so that definitely has changed.
Well, but you know, especially during the NCAA rounds when they're going on, the phenomenal shooting that goes on with teams from around the country, that you could see over the last many decades, that the accuracy is incredible on there against, and that presents a challenge to you for opposing teams, that you have a lot of sharpshooters out there that are pretty good on the court and would give a run to the money on any men's team.
Absolutely.
Nationally.
Yeah, you know, we got a kid on our team, Jill Herder, and I think she will outshoot a whole lot of guys. She's just an amazing shooter. So when you look at those abilities and the talent that they bring to the table, that's one of the reasons the game has exploded. We talked about that a little earlier is, you got Steph Curry made logo threes popular. The women's game, I think, has made it broader because you see so many women in the women's games who are shooting very accurately from very deep. And that makes the game more exciting when you watch players come out and you go, oh my God, how does she do that? That makes it more exciting and makes people want to tune in.
So is there, like when you're trying to, not to give away recruiting secrets, we don't want to do that. But, like if somebody's coming out of high school and they're pretty good on the court with ball, I mean, and you're watching them in high school championship games and stuff like that. I mean, obviously you're going to look at the size of the player and, can they dribble the ball? Are they a reasonable good shooter from the outside?
Right.
And that seems to be like what's going on nationally with a lot of these programs.
Yeah.
That's the type of player
that's the type of player that you want. But we really focus on building a team and a team of complementary pieces. So we don't want, 5 players that play exactly the same. We want a team full of people that their skills complement each other. So what I bring to the table enhances what you bring to the table and vice versa. So sometimes, even though a player might have a great skill set, if we already have that skill set on our team, 2 or 3 players deep, we might not need that team. So it's about building a team of complementary pieces from a skill set and building a team of players who lean into our core values and lean into our culture so that the whole is made better because of the individual parts.
Okay. And you are a very strong advocate for mental health of the athletes.
Yes.
And tell us what kind of support you and the university have provided to student athletes here under your tutelage.
Well, number one, we have an amazing CAP staff, counseling and psychological services. We have an amazing staff. So our CAPS team meets, they're part of our staff, like they're part of our team.
You might want to, the acronym there, you want to explain what that acronym is for the general public. They might not know.
Yeah, counseling and psychological services.
Okay.
That's the CAPS team. So they meet with our team bi-weekly. And a lot of it is education. So we don't want them to just be around for a crisis. How do you prevent crisis? So how do you know, what are the signs to look for when my mental health is starting to decrease? What should I be aware of? Because often we don't even know that we are trending into dangerous territory. And if we can educate them on what to look for, so they know how to avail themselves of services, educating them on things that they can do, strategies and techniques that they can use to keep themselves at a high level. If I'm feeling great, how do I stay there? So a lot of it is about education and also just having it around our team regularly demystifies it. And it's mental health is not, it's as important as, making sure your ankles are healthy, making sure nutritionally you're getting the right nutrients, making sure you're getting the proper sleep, making sure we're getting in the gym and getting our skills high, making sure our mind and our emotions are ready for the grind of college basketball.
I don't think a lot of people in the general public understand, when you're a college athlete, you're also a student athlete. And it does take a toll on the students, especially if they're traveling cross country and they still have to maintain their grade average.
Right.
And so it can be mentally challenging, depending upon what time you have a game. And next thing you know, you may be on a bus or a flight to go wherever to next thing. So, years ago, 40 years ago, that really wasn't in the equation
Not
for
at
student
all.
athletes. Now I think most programs now understand that has to be part of a component when you're going to a university.
Absolutely. And we want our young ladies to know that that's important to me as the head coach. It's an important part of our staff. So if they're ever struggling, they don't have to feel like if I come to coach, she's going to think something's wrong or she's going to think I'm weak. If I come to coach, coach is going to attend to that just as well as she would if I had a knee injury.
Okay. You had an opportunity to go with the team over to Greece and Croatia over the summer for exhibition games for the team. What was that experience like? But more importantly, Do they play under international rules? How often, or do they play on the NCAA rules? Or how often do collegiate players get an opportunity to go abroad to play with the whole different set of, I guess, rules, so to speak? So do they play on international rules?
Yeah, we play international rules, which is, they're very different. So, for example, I think the first game, I kept trying to call a timeout, and I'm talking to the ref. I'm like, timeout, ref, timeout. And they're like, no, you have to tell the table. So I'm like, table, timeout. Yeah, I got to talk to the table and call the timeout. And so
that is very interesting because, well, I guess if you look at it this way, the refs are supposed to, in theory, having their eyes on the court, but they're supposed to have the eyes on the bench if you're calling a timeout. But in this case, they let the scorekeepers do that.
So the
I
rules,
never knew that. So I learned something new today.
Yep, the rules are a little bit different, and so that gave us a little something to we had to rally around playing with a different set of rules. A different ball. It felt and looked a little bit differently. But the biggest thing was to go experience a different culture, right? And for a lot of our players, they want to play professionally when they finish their college
and they might not necessarily make the WNBA and then play over in Europe.
Exactly.
And right there.
So if they don't make the WNBA, playing over in Europe, there's way more opportunities. And so for them to be able to go over to Greece, go over to Croatia and learn that, okay, I can live over here. Whatever notions that I had in my mind.
By the way, the exchange rate's pretty good right now. I think it's $1.05 with the euro, which is very good. So
yeah, whatever they imagine how it would be, it's kind of like you go over there and you dispel that notion that it's not as different as I think it is. I can eat the food over there, and so that's a big part for us, is to make sure that they have a different cultural experience.
Well, they had an opportunity to have part of the Mediterranean diet.
They did,
which is good. So
they enjoyed that. You
had a great, successful playing career in both collegiate and professional yourself. How has that shaped you as a coach? And just by way of background, in case nobody in the viewership, and this goes into 250,000 homes, where did you play?
Okay.
What collegiate level? So you just, I don't mean to give you you don't have to do a 5-minute dissertation. A TikTok moment would help.
Yeah. Well, I played at Notre Dame for Hall of Fame coach Muffet McGraw. And then following that, I was able to play in the WNBA.
Now, I want to stop you right there with Muffet McGraw. I had a laugh when Notre Dame came in to play the Lady Knights.
Okay.
One year when Teresa, I believe it was, I don't remember Teresa, they didn't have a practice gym. So they called up our recreation department, and we were able to arrange to have them use the high school basketball gym to do their practice before the game there. So she got to know.
What year was that?
Oh, that had been about maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
So that was when, who was that real tall center?
Ruth Riley?
Ruth Riley was playing.
Yeah, I might have been an assistant coach on that team.
Okay.
That
Ruth Riley was playing there.
Familiar. Yeah.
And she had a relationship with our recreation director. She knew the family really well, Kevin Donovan. So because he's a big Notre Dame guy. So that was I got a chance to go down and speak with the coach, and the players. Just welcome to Piscataway. Do your best on the court, but you could throw one to Rutgers every once in a while. So but that's the camaraderie for you as being a head coach here at Rutgers and stuff like that, and with your experience, must say a lot for when you try to get instill your players to do their best on the court.
Yeah,
from your own personal experience.
Yeah, and I try to coach. I remember the things as a player, the things that the coaches that I did that made me feel empowered, and that put me in a space where I felt like I could perform my best. And I try to do that as much as possible. And I also remember the things that coaches did or said that, did put me in a place where I couldn't play my best. And I try to avoid those things. I've had the wonderful privilege that I've played for and coached with Hall of Fame coaches. I've been coached by Nell Fortner, who's an Olympic coach. I've been coached by Van Chancellor, who's an Olympic coach. I coached by Nancy Darsh, who's a Hall of Fame coach. Coached by Lynn Dunn, another Hall of Fame coach, and obviously Coach McGraw. So I've been able to take a lot of nuggets from all of those coaches, but also remember what it was like to be a player and what I needed to be able to have the confidence to go out there and perform, in the WNBA championship, right? It's 15,000 people. How do you perform?
So what was that like for
moments?
you when you were playing in the WA versus collegiate?
Oh, it was, to your point about the growth of women's basketball, so at the time that I played in the WNBA, I played in front of packed arenas all the time. We're playing on NBC on Saturday, or we're playing on ABC on a Saturday, in college, we didn't really have that. So it was a lot of fun. But it's also like a little more nerve wracking when, you got to go in the game and you're playing against, these Olympians and they're going to be guarding you, and it's a little more nerve-wracking than playing against Evansville.
And there's always somebody that's always going to be better than you.
Right,
on the
right,
court, so.
right.
And when you're talking about being coached by Hall of Fame coaches throughout your career, though, and you're also following here at Rutgers 2 Hall of Fame coaches too. So for you, that's got to be a test, working with some very high-quality professionals over time.
Yeah, and for me, like following in the footsteps of Teresa Grants, who has been a bit of a mentor for me, and Coach Stringer, who also has been a bit of a mentor for me, it's invigorating, it's inspiring, it's motivating, because I see every day, I come in this gym and I see their accomplishments on the wall, and it's like, inspiring to try to have another element of Rutgers women's basketball that has tremendous success. So I appreciate what they've done before me.
And you sort of answered my last question right there, but I do have a couple other closeout questions, some personal questions, nothing too personal.
All right.
But you know how in New Jersey we're nosy about people who are in the limelight. Do you have a favorite Jersey Shore? Or
far,
you haven't have enough time to go down to a Jersey Shore?
I haven't been to all of them, so. But
we'll give you a pass if you don't, because you're
I have been to Asbury Park, and that is really cool. So I've enjoyed being. So if I had to say I have a favorite,
Asbury Park's going to be very happy about that. Next thing you'll be on an infomercial right there. What about your favorite dish? Do you have
my
a favorite
dish here? Okay, so I have heard all.
You're allowed multiple dishes.
I've heard all about the Jersey bagels.
Okay.
And I finally got some authentic Jersey bagels, and they are delicious. So right now, I'm a big fan of New Jersey bagels.
Okay, that's okay to say, but don't say that in New York, because they're going to try to kill me. Do you have a favorite diner yet?
Henry's Diner, which is right on our
locally.
campus. Yeah.
You're thinking locally. And what do you have a favorite movie?
A favorite movie?
Yeah.
I don't have one favorite movie, but the Christmas time is coming up, and Elf.
Don't
gets
tell me Hallmark. You're in front of the Hallmark.
No, not the Hallmark movies. I love Elf. Elf is like my favorite Christmas movie, so it's about time for me to crank that one up at home.
Well, we're going to leave it here with Coach Washington here, and I want to thank you for allowing us to come down to your home, your gym, the gym floor here. And we wish both you and your team the best of luck for the 23-24 season. And we look forward to seeing you in the future. And we have high hopes for you in this season coming up. And I'm sure that so do the players.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
All right.
Today we're here to honor these gentlemen up here who are at the head dais. They're not having to pick up the check today, which is a good thing because they've already paid their check by serving for our great country. And we're very fortunate enough that we do have a VA clinic here in Piscataway. I don't know if many folks remember, it used to be in the city of New Brunswick. It's off of Old New Brunswick Road, so if you come out of the senior center here, you cross over Centennial Avenue, and it's in those medical condos on the left-hand side on Willis Avenue over there.